I was surprised by the end of KADO the Right Answer's first, or 0 episode I should say. It wasn't because of what happened. I mean, the giant cube was ridiculous, but I was more so impressed by the show's switch from 2D to 3D. It's, well, just some well done 3D. The character models look good, it's pretty well animated, and although the way only half the show is 3D can be distracting sometimes, it still looks pretty damn good. But in terms of animation, people are a bit divided on this show. Some like the 3D, some love it, some are annoyed by the 3D, and some absolutely despise it. And this almost always seems to be the case for any anime with a decent amount of CG in it. There's never a consensus on whether it looks good or if it's used its CGI effectively. And it made me wonder, is there a proper way to use CGI? I want to find out if there's anything we can learn from 3D anime, whether they're good or bad, that can help improve and advance the use of CGI and 3D in anime so that it can actually be done well. Today, I want to talk about what I think might just be the right answer to CGI in anime. For anyone who may not know, CGI refers to the usage of computer-generated imagery in various art mediums, such as games, TV, animation, and etc. But these days, it usually refers specifically to 3D animation. There are a few reasons why a studio might choose to use CGI in their show, but I want to start off by dispelling a common myth people think of whenever this comes up. CGI is not cheaper. Quite the opposite, in fact. You see, the staff required to create the average 2D animation would be made up of these positions, whereas a 3D animation would require all those roles, and then some. The studio would need to more than double their staff just for the sake of making a CGI scene. And even if it takes less time to animate, all those extra hands are going to be quite expensive. And that's before you even take into consideration all the extra hardware and upgraded equipment they'd need to render it properly. But there are times when CGI isn't necessary, because there are some scenes that are just damn near impossible to animate by hand. Such as this giant fucking cube. Or, more interestingly, the backgrounds of Attack on Titan. I imagine it's difficult enough as it is to animate the characters moving at these ridiculous speeds. I could only imagine how much harder it would become if they then had to do that with a hand-drawn background. It'd be an incredible strain on the animators, and it could very easily go wrong. The solution to this, of course, was to simply create a 3D rendering of the environments and track the characters' animations to some camera movements within that 3D space. And as you can see, it paid off beautifully. These high-speed sequences look amazing, not only because of the great lighting and fluid movements, but also because the rendered backgrounds give you a better sense of the speed they're moving at and help to make the action feel even more intense. Sometimes CGI is the only practical solution to these problems, and for some animators it's probably just easier to animate CGI scenes. The Japanese animation industry, at least when compared to Western animation, is very traditional, relying mostly on frame-by-frame animation. What this means is that the animators would have to redraw each frame, whether it be an intense fight scene or just someone waving, about 12 to 24 times for each second of animation. And yes, they only have to do this for the parts of the animation that are actually supposed to be animated, and there are times when the frame rate for a shot might be as low as maybe 5 or 6 frames. But it's still incredibly strenuous and tedious work, and it only gets worse when you find out how poorly animators in Japan are actually treated. CGI, by comparison, is simple, in that you just need to set a few key poses and then adjust it if something looks off. For Japanese animators, this is practically a godsend, especially when, as mentioned before, they have to do an animation that'd be quite difficult to do in 2D, like this fucking cube. Or the use of CGI could just be a stylistic choice. The studio might simply want a different look for their show to help it stand out in the sea of generic anime designs that come out every season. KADO the Right Answer, for example, while using typical anime design aesthetics, has a unique feeling to it that, for me at least, makes it feel a bit more memorable. Also, this giant fucking cube. There are a good few reasons why an anime might use CGI, from pulling off a shot that's too convoluted to do by hand to simply wanting a different aesthetic. It sounds reasonable, so why then does such a sizable portion of the anime community seem to be against it? Well, this is why. And this. And this. And the— oh Jesus God Christ! Kill it! Kill it! Kill him with fire! CGI doesn't exactly have a good reputation in the anime community. To most people, it seems that any show that even attempts to use it beyond a difficult shot ends up becoming a tremendous failure. The poster child for which is the 2016 anime adaptation of Berserk, which somehow got a second season. How? It decided to go mostly CGI to, as far as I can tell, try and maintain the incredible amount of detail from the original manga's artwork. And, well, to say it was a disappointment is putting it lightly. It was a clusterfuck of everything going wrong, from bad models and animation to poor direction and writing. Super Eye Patch Wolf made a pretty good video breaking it down, which I'd highly recommend if you're into anime or animation. Many people fear that the use of CGI will end up turning any anime that uses it into another Berserk 2016. A poorly done mess that's trying to imitate an art style that isn't built for 3D, or, God forbid, something even worse. And yet, for as many examples as there are of CGI going wrong, there are plenty of examples of it going well. I can easily point to many Japanese video games like Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy or Persona as great examples of some amazing CGI. Although you could argue that that's not really a good point, since those video games not only have bigger budgets and more development times than your typical anime series, but the people working on those games would have far more experience with CGI than an anime animator would. And while that's true, there are still plenty of anime shows that have very well made CGI. Obviously, there's KADO the Right Answer, which I think ends up working because of the nature of the show. It's very dialogue heavy, and most of the show is made up of conversations and negotiations, and so a lot of the animations are very minimal and subtle, and so it doesn't run as much of a risk of falling into the uncanny valley as a show with a lot of complicated animations might. Also, the giant fucking cube! Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex makes effective use of CGI for the Tachicomas and various other machines that blend in well with the 2D environment around them. The rebuild of Evangelion movie series used CGI not only for its various angel monsters, but also animated the AV units by tracing over 3D animations. AJIN Demi-Human is an entirely CGI animated anime, and not only is it well animated, but the 3D works to the show's benefit, helping to emphasize the otherworldly nature of its titular beasts. Even that studio's previous anime, Knights of Sidonia, for as many problems as I personally had with it, had some pretty damn good space fights. Hell, even RWBY, though not made in Japan, is a fantastic CGI show with a hell of a lot of influence from anime that looks great. And some might argue that the problem with using CGI in an anime is the fact that the anime style was specifically built for 2D. And the ways in which CGI animes try to replicate it causes problems, from lowering the frame rates to make it look more hand-drawn, to models with an uncanny valley feel. It just looks awkward in 3D. But I don't think this argument holds up when you look at things like Cassette Girl, Rapid Rogue, Neon Genesis Impacts, or even the openings for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They all make the anime aesthetic work in 3D without feeling clumsy or weird. As I looked into this, I started to notice something. There didn't seem to be any specific through line for what makes CGI work well in anime, or what a good 3D anime should look like. Big and small studios alike seem to be equally capable of making something amazing, or making something atrocious. And each series seemed to have its own unique set of reasons as to why it did or didn't work. Figuring out what makes a good CGI was becoming more and more of a case-by-case scenario. And maybe that's the point. It doesn't matter what aesthetic a show uses or what genre it is or any of that. What matters is the competence of the people behind it. Nearly every use of terrible CGI in an anime I've found can be traced back to this. The people behind Kemono Friends are obviously amateur animators. The director behind Berserk had never made a 3D show before and wasn't used to it. And, well, we don't talk about that one. The right answer to using CGI in anime is to make sure that the people behind whatever is being made know what the hell they're doing. And that means that each show will have its own unique way of finding the right way to use it. Whether it be just for hard to draw shots or going full 3D for the whole series. It's a case by case situation, and the only real way to know if a show is going to be blessed or cursed by it is to watch it. After all, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, or a show by its trailer. And yeah, those are my thoughts. This video was originally just going to focus solely on KADO, but then I started looking into some more behind the scenes stuff and I realized it's a much broader subject than I thought it'd be. It's kind of weird because I also think one of the big reasons CGI is looked down upon so much in anime is because most of the big CGI animes are terrible ones. I'm not saying anime should entirely switch to 3D, god no, I love my crazy 2D animations. I just wish people would stop being so against an anime just cause it's 3D, you know? Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out my last video where I talked about how George Orwell's 1984 is one of the best dystopias in the literary world. And if you want to see more, then be sure to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to come fly with me. And hopefully, I'll see you later.